Dr. Justin. So, Justin, tell me a little bit about your background, how you got to do the kind of work you do. You're down in Cupertino off the Anza, right across from Apple's headquarters. I've been to your office lots of times. I know you've got one of these in there, but how did you get to do the weird stuff you do, man? Because you're kind of like a biohacker here.
Well, it's that old expression, seek and you will find. So I just tried finding the most successful people and helping people heal from chronic injuries, pain, hormonal issues, infections, and just kind of jumped on their coattails. Success, begot success.
Awesome. And what are you trained in?
So my background, I've got a kinesiology degree from UMass, so I did a lot with muscle testing, exercise, and rehabilitation. And then from there, I only could get so far with patients. So then bringing on the bioelectric healing and the vibration really helped essentially energize my patient's recovery. And then the next aspect was looking at these chronic infections and the hormonal milieu that really helps create the anti-inflammatory environment that allows the body to heal.
You've got about 10 minutes worth of slides, and then you're going to do a demo. But before, just so people who are online listening, what are you going to do for the demo? You've got some Frankenstein gear somewhere over here that even we don't have to bring it on now, but just give us a hint of what's to come.
So what we're going to do is we're going to actually scan the patient who has an injury, and we're going to find out where the actual injury is coming from. And again, where the injury, where the pain is, and where the actual cause of the injury is are usually two different things. So we're going to kind of get to the root of that.
And we're going to use electrical stimulation
to
do the scanning.
Yeah,
right?
Pretty powerful.
Okay. So you're going to see electrodes moved across skin and muscles twitching, and it's quite dramatic, actually. And can we make someone scream today?
We could.
Because you've made me scream like a girl in your office.
You're pretty intense, Dave.
All right. I'm really looking forward to hearing your presentation. I'll be right off stage over here.
Awesome.
And ready to go?
Thank you.
Cool.
All right.
There it is.
And left and right. Perfect. All right, so the whole goal of today's talk really is to heal faster and perform better. And the simple biohacks that if we can incorporate into our life, it's going to allow us just to perform better. And it's not about working harder. It's about working smarter. And those are the simple things we're going to go over today. So again, first, kind of epigenetics is the foundation. I'm going to go through this slide briefly, but we have three main stressors in the body: physical, chemical, and emotional stressors. Physical, old injuries; chemical, hormonal imbalances; fatigue, hormonal issues; chronic inflammation; and emotional things as well. All of these actually interact on our genes and flip our genetic switches on or off. This is called epigenetics, and we want to control our stressors so we can smile. All right, so we have the ability to express optimal health. And if we don't express optimal health, right, this leads to symptoms. Chronic symptoms eventually lead to disease. So again, our body is designed to adapt, and all of these stressors actually interact on one another. So chronic pain from an old sports injury creates chemical inflammation and may prevent you from doing certain activities that you enjoy doing, like golfing or playing with your kids. All right, so all of these stressors kind of accumulate. This is kind of the key thing, is we have our natural stress bucket here, and all of these stressors actually go in our bucket, right? Physical, chemical, emotional. We're eating gluten. We're getting exposed to mycotoxins, right? Drinking bad coffee. All of these things add up in our bucket, and stress tends to accumulate. And the typical person is running out, right? Stress accumulates. Our bucket overflows. We have symptoms now. This is called bucket dysfunction in my world, right? And typically we're getting prescribed a medication that inherently is more toxic and providing more stress onto the bucket. So we have this vicious cycle that just goes round the clock. So our goal kind of as biohackers is really to go in, figure out where those stressors are, and actually go backwards and pull them out so we can allow the environment to heal. That's kind of the first thing. Even when we're doing physical issues, trying to help people from old injuries heal, most thing I see with chiropractors and physical therapists and even medical doctors is they don't get the environment, the hormonal environment set up for healing to be essentially to be able to progress. So like I said right here, this is another slide kind of depicting that whole process. Our body is designed to adapt, right? We have stress, physical, chemical, and emotional. If we don't address it, we continue to maladapt, and we eventually work our way to phase 3 where we see symptoms. We go to our doctor, right? And eventually more symptoms lead to premature death. So our goal is to remove the underlying stressors, remove the barriers to healing so our body can start adapting and moving backwards. That's kind of the goal. And the foundation for that with all my patients is really the bulletproof diet. right? Because it's providing the raw material. And the biggest thing is the fats, because we'll go over the hormone cascade. What you're going to find is all your fats are the precursor to all your hormones, right? All of these hormones that help build you up and providing the raw material for joints and tendons and for ligaments to heal. So your brain, all right? Really important thing, 70% of your brain's fat. So we want to provide the raw material, but we also want to provide the right stimulation. So the brain, raw material on one side, stimulation on the other side. And we're going to go into the stimulation part. So essentially, our body is designed to absorb force. And the number one stress on our body is gravity, coming right down on us, 24/7. And our body is designed to absorb force, ideally like this diving board is. The man jumps up, the board comes down, it goes back up. Force is being dispersed each way. Just like here. This gentleman here being in good posture and having his muscles in balance, we're seeing force being absorbed properly, and we're avoiding the injuries, we're avoiding the pain, we're avoiding the inflammation. So again, 90% of the stimulation and nutrition to the brain is generated by movement. So proprioception is really important. That's why doing specific adjustments, using whole body vibration and current, drive that. It's basically, it allows us to essentially put the patient on steroids, if you will, in regards to just flooding the brain with all that good, healthy movement to heal. And here's the important thing. Only 10% of our brain's energy goes into thinking and performance and metabolism and immune system. So our goal is to get this 90% down so well so the body can be essentially more focused on the healthy immunity, performance, function, looking good, all those good things. So again, what's actually happening here, we have two main signals going to the brain. We have pain movement, or we have pain, and we have proprioception, or just in general movement. So when we're in chronic pain, what we see is this pain signal goes up, all right? So our goal is to use specific modalities, electricity, specific manipulation, soft tissue, and vibration to flip the switch, to take away the pain signal and to bring up the movement signal. Because if we're stuck in that pain lock, we're creating this hormone called cortisol. And over time, cortisol actually destroys the area of the brain called the hippocampus. A lot of Dr. Robert Sapolsky's work out of Stanford showed this. So it's really important we provide the right stimulation to the brain. So nutrition, right, the bulletproof diet is kind of the foundation. And then the stimulation really is good movement, providing current and proprioception through vibration is always the best option in my book. And that's the goal, healthy brain. So here's your muscle right here. Your muscle is designed to absorb force, okay? So imagine this muscle here. This is the muscle belly. Right, imagine it being cut in half. So we're looking at it going up. So this is the muscle cut in half right here. Okay, these little ions right here have to interact, and that creates a depolarization. It brings that charge from 110 closer to 0, and the muscles contract and relax. So our body's able to absorb force through that muscle elongating. So a normal contraction looks just like this. So imagine jumping up in the air and coming down. Your glute and your hamstrings have to elongate to absorb force. So now, if we have injury to the muscle, so our muscle can't depolarize, so these ions can't go back and forth, we can't generate a muscle contraction, so what happens is this. We eventually have inflammation or injury. All right? And over time, if we don't fix this, this is what happens. This is what we call a compensation pattern. Force comes in, and then we eventually maybe develop a limp. So for instance, I have a Division I college athlete that flew in to come see me for the week. He has chronic ankle sprains. And what we found after assessing him is his hip and knee muscles are not stabilizing properly. Therefore, force is being distributed down to the ankle. So our goal is to get that on, turn these muscles on properly with specific techniques and vibration and current to allow this compensation pattern to be adjusted. And we have all the inflammation right here, and that's creating the injury. So we want to fix this so the muscle can now absorb force properly. That's the ultimate goal. And earlier, coming up here, we'll show you how you can use specific current to find the underlying cause, because a lot of times the pain or the inflammation is not necessarily where the cause is. So again, cortisol, the excess cortisol is really driving in the breakdown of that brain, driving the hippocampus. So we also want to look well, we want to perform well, but we want to be able to think well at the same time. So really kind of a holistic set of goals there. And that's what we're trying to avoid here, no Homer Simpson brain. All right. So again, there's a concept in functional neurology called hemisphericity. So when we become more sympathetic dominant, meaning we're breaking down faster than we're building up, we tend to have a hemisphericity. So one side of the brain, or the cortex, becomes dominant over the other. All right. And certain sides of the brain have different characteristics, right? Your left brain, more analytical, right brain, more picture, more emotionally oriented. So what we find is this hemisphericity creates more sympathetic tone. So that's kind of why we use things like the M-wave or HRV to drive up the parasympathetic. So what we see when patients or people are in that sympathetic lock, as we call it, we see digestion issues, for instance. We see excess cortisol. So here's someone with a hemisphericity. We're seeing one side of the brain a little bit more dominant over the other, and we can test that by doing specific muscle tests, doing specific neurological tests to assess what side that may be on. And it can affect digestion because we're not able to break down nutrients. We're creating excess cortisol, and many of those receptors are around the tummy, so we start to see it in the waist. So this is the foundation here, because if our hormonal milieu, if you will, is not in balance, it's not going to provide the raw material for us to heal. So all of our hormones come from cholesterol. This is why the grass-fed butter, high-quality fats and proteins are the foundation. If we don't have those building blocks, our hormones aren't going to work. I can attribute a lot of my female hormone patients over the last 10 years have come directly from the low-fat craze of the last 20 years. So I'd rather get my patients eating the raw material so their hormones are balanced. So essentially we have cholesterol up top. We start seeing cortisol here. This is dealing with the stress and inflammation and blood sugar side. And on this side over here with the pink and the blue, those are our anabolic hormones. So we have our progesterone and estrogen that help keep women fertile and have a healthy cycle. And we have our androgenic hormones for our men. We both have each, just different ratios for each. So when we have a stressor, that could be a physical pain, that could be a chronic stressor from an infection or emotional issues, that takes our hormone substrate, our precious cholesterol, and drives it towards cortisol. And if we don't address that stressor over long periods of time, that cortisol eventually starts going down along with our anabolic hormones. So now you can see we're breaking down faster than we're building up. And if we keep that stressor there, cortisol eventually drops out too. So our goal is to remove that stress, right, kind of be stress detectives, and that allows our hormones to come back on track. So looking at the adrenals, thyroid, different functional tests to assess inflammation provides the raw material. So when we do the vibration, we do the current, it gives us the ability to heal. So that's kind of confusing, I know. So hormone pool, that equals cholesterol, right? We have our stress hormones on one side, anti-aging hormones on the other side. If we have these chronic insidious stressors, what we find is this. We see the out of balance in our hormones, right? We see the stress hormones start going up, anti-aging down. So our goal is to get to the root of the stress, bring the hormones back into balance, and then this allows us to essentially perform better and heal better. So the big idea. What's the big idea here? What's the key takeaway? Well, again, get bulletproof. The foundation of all my patients is to have the high-quality fat, to have the low-toxin food, the anti-inflammatory food. That's the foundation for anyone that wants good hormonal health and performance. Grab the low-hanging fruit, all right? Really important. Make sure your body is in balance. Get assessed, get tested. Try to find someone that does specific muscle testing to find your imbalances. Because if your muscles aren't firing properly, force gets absorbed by disc, tendons, and ligaments, and we get itis or inflammation and breakdown. So we want to get to the root of the issue. Again, use functional tests to assess your hormonal milieu, right? Cortisol rhythm tests, looking at your thyroid, looking at different markers for inflammation, C-reactive protein, testing for infections. All these things are really important because they rob your body from the ability to heal. And the last standpoint is a lot of things going on here to kind of navigate your journey towards health. Any questions, you can feel free to visit my site, justinhealth.com/free-consult. For any questions, I'll look at your lab test for you and make sure you're on the right track at least. Thanks for having me here. Let's put that guy right back on your tummy again for me. So we're going to just come right up the back of your arm, and you're going to just let me know when we go greater than that 5 number you gave me, okay? So we're coming up, and you may even feel muscles pulsate too, or kind of fasciculate, if you will. Okay, I'm going to come up here. Typically, the levator scap and the upper trapezius is always a hot spot because we're sitting. That's kind of our typing muscle. You may feel a pull in here. Feel a pull right there? That's like your levator scap, upper trapezius. Anyone that types, it's a predictable muscle that gets really short and tight.
Definitely there. It's funny, all the places that I feel
right
things,
here,
I don't
essentially
feel
right up here. Okay? And I also find some up and under the bicep tendon here. Do you feel it right there? How about anything under here, too?
Right there.
So I see a lot of typical patterns with people that are typing a lot or on the computer.
I don't type a lot.
You don't type a lot? Okay, good. What kind of job do you have?
I do stunt work and...
Oh, so you're pretty physical anyway. Okay, great. So again, we see up here and we see here. So typically what we do, I'll do a little bit more of a fuller assessment and do both sides, but just for sake of time, we put some, we put a pad right on you here so we can provide that current right into that area. So we got that upper trapezius muscle, and we're going to do this lower part here too, where this came up positive as well. So now what we're doing is we're bombarding the brain with extra stimulation. And that's kind of the key component to drive healing and to reduce inflammation. So I'm going to lower the current here so we don't give you a zap, all right? All right, I'm going to put this in here first. Let me grab that current there too. Perfect. All right, great. So I'm going to start out with like a 3 out of 10. Okay, so I'm going to just inch you up, just say 1, 2, and we'll stop at 3 to start. I'm going to have you do the shrugs, just like that. All right?
The whole time?
Just for a couple seconds to get this. Perfect. Let me know when you hit 3 out of 10.
Maybe 3.
Okay, good. So what are the main movements you're doing every day that do you think are causing this issue?
My shoulder. I feel like personally that happens when I'm not active.
Not active.
If I'm really active, I feel like my shoulders. Well, not totally.
What type of stunts do you find yourself doing on an everyday basis?
On an everyday basis, mostly just training. I mean,
any movements that repeat itself?
Sure, hanging, pulling.
Okay, hanging, got it. Okay, so I'm going to have you just do some mountain climbers. I'm going to have you really reach up and pull down. Reach up and pull down. Awesome. Good, I'm going to hold these down here for you just so we have maximal conductivity. I'm going to increase the current a little more. Let me know when you get to about 5 out of 10.
Maybe 5.
And the nice thing about this is we can actually measure inflammation because this is on a 0 to 10 dial, so we can see where her 10 is. That may be at a 3 or 4 on here, and then over time she'll be able to go higher and higher and higher. So someone like Dave, his nervous system is trained, we can get him to almost max out the device. But someone who comes in who's intro and who's injured and inflamed, it goes lower. So we're going to increase it a little more. I'm going to push you to 10 a little bit faster than I normally would just for sake of time. So let me know. Keep counting your numbers for me.
6.
Good. Keep counting. And as you can see, she's sweating pretty bad. She's really in shape. She's a stunt person. Yet she's doing a very simple movement, right? She's just reaching over her head and coming down with no weight. Where you at?
8.
Good. Now?
Probably 9.
Good. See,
I could probably go further. Okay, that's 10.
10 right there? Awesome. Awesome.
I'm
Yeah,
not
I'm
sure
going to
I
go a
could
little
do
bit
very
less
much.
and you can break through it. Keep going, keep going. You got it.
Okay.
I'm blowing it for you. Now what's going to happen is the threshold here, your body and your nervous system adapt, and that stimulation starts dropping, and she can overcome that pattern. Good. How are you feeling right there?
It's like kung fu training.
Good. Now let me see your arm. I'm going to have you pull right out of your hip and come right up like this, like you're the Statue of Liberty.
Okay.
Good. And then come right back down. Same thing. Keep doing that. I'm going to keep pushing you until you can't do the simple movement. All right. I'm going to keep pushing you. A little slower for me. Better form. Good. Kind of like you're holding that torch. Just like that. There you go. Keep going. Keep going.
Okay.
Right there. There you go. See, I'm going to go just a little below it. I'm going to go a little below. Good. Good form. Watch me. There you go. So wrist over elbow over shoulder. Excellent job. Keep going. So she's at about a 4.8, 4.9 out of 10. So not bad for an injury like that, but again, the goal is to get her to a 10. How are you feeling there?
Cool.
Good. Now what we're going to do is this. I'm going to reverse the current. So the nervous system works on efferent and afferent pathways. Information in's afferent, information out's efferent. So we switch it. So now stimulation's coming in through the red and out through the black pad. So
Same action?
It's just forcing the nervous system to adapt.
Same action?
We're going to have you go back to these just to get loose.
So to step in for a second here, Dr. Justin?
Yeah.
You just said that this machine is helping to suck inflammation out.
That's the goal, yeah.
Well, that's a pretty big thing. If you haven't heard about this before, which most people on Earth haven't, that using electricity like that, we talked about earthing, we talked about some other things like that, electrons control inflammation. And
Yeah.
this kind of stuff that Dr. Justin works with here, it really affects inflammation.
Do this for me.
And he's talking to her nervous system here, telling it, you need to put fat here, you need to build new nerves here. So this is a way of talking to the meat in the body that's different than the way a kettlebell doing exactly the same thing would do. The body would protect this muscle back here. Don't use that muscle because you're doing a kettlebell. But here the electricity is making the muscle fire, which is going to change her brain.
Exactly.
So there's some awesome stuff going on here that's literally, it's biohacking. And this is not the way that you would do traditional physical therapy or traditional weight training. It's something new.
Excellent. Go to this right here. The one caveat is, though, is we find if patients aren't on a bulletproof diet, I see a lot of people who are vegetarians and vegans as well, they don't heal as well because they don't have that fat and protein to help myelinate those nerves and build up that muscle tissue. So having the raw material there is really important. This is just basically telling the workers, hey, put more concrete there, put more wood there. It's providing the stimulus for the raw material to come in and rebuild. Good job. I'm going to just push up a little higher here. How are you feeling?
Good.
So you got to about a 4.8 last time, I think. I'm going to push you a little more, see if we
You
can
could
get
go
back
to
there.
10?
All right. I don't know. You
Awesome.
probably break down into a seizure.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to stand here if you go to a 10.
You come right into this.
I spent a lot of time doing this on this machine.
Yeah.
How are you feeling?
Great.
Good. I'm going to push you a little more.
Okay. Okay.
Good?
Uh-huh.
Do you feel that?
Yeah,
See, if
I
I
feel
went
like
maybe
I-
another half turn more, you'd go right into that position, the T-Rex position.
Yeah, I feel like also
Good
my
form, though. Good form.
neck feels like it's about 5 times the width.
Yes. So now I'm going to pull you off here. Typically we do about 8 to 10 minutes, 4 on each current or each polarity. You went to about 4.5 that time, so...
Terrible.
No, it's actually not bad. If you're chronically injured, we see people at like usually a 2.
Okay.
So not bad, but there's some inflammation there. Kind of move around a little bit. It's not going to fix the issue right now, but you will feel looser because we're basically telling the muscles elongate, relax, contract, or a lot of times they're in this holding pattern trying to protect.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of technology that you'll be seeing over the next 10 years. So what you'll find is that this is the sort of technology that will percolate through potentially CrossFit gyms, potentially areas where we're crossing over from medicine into performance, where you can use this for someone who has a weakness but not necessarily a specific injury, and it's pretty cool stuff. Was that a question for Dr. Justin?
It is really cool stuff, and the internet has been buzzing. But I think, Dr. Justin, a few people are not necessarily understanding the terminology. Is it possible to break it down perhaps into a little bit more of layman terms?
Sure. In regards to the device, the current, so again, we have specific current coming in. We have DC current. That is essentially how our nervous system works, right? We have our central nervous system, brain, nerves coming down to the extremities.
And by the way, DC means like from a battery, direct current, not
Correct.
like from the wall, the AC, which is alternating current.
Right, exactly. Alternating current from the wall. Typically, our body runs on this DC current, so we're using current that's more in harmony with our nervous system. When we do AC current, or we see it in typical PT settings, like Russian stim or TENS, the muscle just tends to contract. You sit there, you don't do much. All that's doing is blocking that pain signal to the brain. Remember the movement pathway and the pain pathway? It's just bombarding the pain pathway. But it's not really doing much to fix the underlying cause, 1. It's not providing an anti-inflammatory environment, 2. And it's not finding the underlying cause, because we can scan and find the underlying cause. The therapist would just be putting it on the area of pain, which may not be the cause. That's the big difference.
So Dr. Justin, you use electrical stimulation quite a lot when I come and I see
Yeah.
you when I'm in town.
Yeah.
We definitely do that. But sometimes you use that when the person's on the Bulletproof Vibe. Why do you do them together sometimes?
1, I find it provides a nice anesthetic. I find patients can go about 10 to 20% more on the current, which is nice. 2, that proprioceptive input, I like it afterwards because it's helping with circulation. That's one of the biggest things. When we're inflamed too, we have this hypercoagulability, meaning red blood cells stick together more. So this is really helping to promote circulation, which helps decrease inflammation and helps provide that healing faster.
So proprioception, which Dr. Justin was talking about, is the idea that your mind knows where your body is in space. And our sense of proprioception is our sense of body awareness. And all of us have pretty poor quality body awareness, even like pro athletes. Maybe, you know, Courtney, you know, you're a sun person, so I'm guessing you have a better sense of body awareness than average because you keep getting whacked if your body's in the wrong place, right? So you would learn, I don't know where my feet are. I have to consciously, because I used to walk like this as a kid. So one of the things we've worked on is I've learned to straighten my feet out, but every now and then I catch myself doing this and I straighten up because I'm still hacking that part of me. But the electrical stuff like this has been a big part of that. Like the work that we've done specific was on reprogramming my nervous system, not through here, which is the old way of driving change. I wanted to change, I used my willpower, I forced change, but we did it through there, where we told the nerves what to do and the nerves told the brain what to do, which is a very different paradigm, and it lets us have much faster progress than you would expect.
Right, and the nice thing with the vibration, that 30 hertz frequency, we're basically screaming at our nervous system saying adapt, 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 absorb force properly. So we're stimulating that brain through current, through proprioception of the different vibrational frequencies to drive healing and lower inflammation. That's kind of the ultimate goal. Yeah.
Could you use this to kind of shortcut that proverbial 10,000 hours for complex skill acquisition?
Absolutely, that's the big thing. And if you want to go into the work of Jay Schroeder, he trains a lot of professional athletes. The next level, once you have the foundation, is doing this because you're driving 500 pulses per second of information. Your brain's typically sending 1 pulse per second. So we can get 500 times more work accomplished in the same amount of time. That's why I think it was Courtney was very much sweating and just doing a simple movement. You could see she was really straining because we're providing more input. As long as form is good, right? Then we can essentially get to a higher level faster, for sure.
And is it doing that? Is the mechanism just increasing myelin growth along that pathway?
That's part of it, but also really, I would say, really providing that stimulus to the brain to help that sensory cortex develop the proprioception and the ability to absorb force. That's what athletics is all about. Who can absorb force the best? Who can change direction the best?
Could you have someone from the audience come up and maybe just do a squat on the whole body vibe and just guide them through it the way you would do it?
Absolutely.
Anyone
wants to come up? Perfect. Awesome.
Question for you while you're setting that up as well. We have a lot of people who are interested to know more about not only how they can learn to train how to do some of what you're doing using this, but then also where they can get that treatment. So first of all, is ARJMV, is this the same thing as what a lot of chiropractors have in their office? And if so, I think I've experienced it before. Just not with exercise, or is this something different?
A lot of times it's different. Typically, people are referring to like the TENS unit or like Russian stim or things like that. This is more of a hybrid between the two. The Russians kind of had this technology down in the 70s and combined a couple of modalities to create this. So not quite the same thing. There's a couple places. ArcWave New Jersey is a good place. ArcWave Austin is a great place. They do the rehab part and the high-level training part.
Great. Thank you.
Perfect. So I'm going to turn this on. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Will that create too much noise?
Wouldn't you stand on it while he turns it on? So
Perfect.
It vibrate around?
So doing a squat here, the first thing we want to do, typically if we're having a load, if we're having weight, we squat a little bit differently, but now we do a little bit different because we're just doing more form. So we're going to have our feet about shoulder width apart, toes pointing straight. This is a little bit, controversial. Some say 10, 15 degrees. That's fine for weight, but for now, just straight. What you're going to do is hold your hands out straight. Take a deep breath in. Draw your belly button into your spine, and you're going to the first motion is driving your butt out, back, and down while keeping your knees not going past your shoelaces. And then you're going to drive right back up to the middle part of your foot. And now we'll put the vibration on, so now you get the stimulus going to the brain at the same time.
Take a step up this way a little bit so it'll stop vibrating.
There you go. Good, toes pointing forward, hands out straight, deep breath in, draw your tummy in, head straight, driving your butt out, back, and down, and right back up to the middle part of your foot. Excellent. Bring your hips all the way forward, just like that. Very good. The biggest mistake in a squat movement is the first motion tends to be the knees going forward. That shifts the weight to the knees. That's the biggest cause of almost all knee problems. The first motion should be driving the hips back. That puts the weight on the glutes, the biggest muscle in the body, and then we're driving back, so we're pushing in a dresser draw with your butt, and then coming down, versus here. This is bad. This is good. You can see my knees don't really break my shoelaces, head up, chest up, and ideally tummy in to help get that TVA internal core system activated. Great. Come right back up. And the next step, what we typically do is we do an iso hold. So we'd come down like this, you could hold something like this, chest up, and we'd have you hold here for about 2 or 3 minutes, and your muscles have to contract just to keep you there. So we're trying to tell your muscles, absorb force, absorb force, absorb force. Yeah, go for it. And if you drop in, and hold that right there for me, we'll just do a nice 10-second hold. And then your brain's being bombarded right now with all that good stimulation.
So 30 times a second, his brain thinks he's doing a squat right now, which is totally cheating.
And there's a great video of Dwight Freeney. Essentially, he tore his ligaments on the inside part of his ankle before the 2010 Super Bowl, and they rehabbed him. That injury is a 6 to 8 week healing time. He was back on the field in 6 to 8 days with the same type of therapy, with the stimulation and the vibration. 6 to 8 days from 6 to 8 weeks. Powerful. Come back up. Keep your chest up for me. Bring your hips underneath yourself. Good. So the key thing is, if you're out of balance, though, you don't want to be doing movements when you're out of balance, because you're just building up bad compensation patterns.
Okay. You feel it? That was just, what, 2 minutes maybe? Can you guys see the sweat and all? You're done, yeah. Thank you. The Bulletproof Vibe is designed for use at home or in a chiropractic practice like yours. I use this. My kids, 3 and 6, use it. It's gentle enough for that sort of thing, and it just makes your whole body get more exercise in less time. If you're not going to go for an hour-long walk, you get the circulation you want here. But I like the fact that you're doing like more of a proper squat on it.
Yes, absolutely. Great.
We're running short on time. Let's give a big thanks to Dr. Justin.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate having me.
It's been great. I'd like to remind our viewers how they can contact you, where they can find you.
JustinHealth.com. I'm actually in Cupertino in the Apple campus, and I'm also down in Austin, Texas quite frequently these days. And they can always schedule a free consult, too, to ask me any questions. JustinHealth.com/free-consult. Thanks.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We have a few minutes left, and one of the other devices for training the body that really makes sense to know about is called the Power Lung. And I have these on Upgraded Self. The coupon code for Upgraded Self will also work for this. The Creative Live is the coupon code there. This is lifting weights for your lungs. Now, all you do is you pick a resistance here by dialing a dial. You can sort of see, you can increase or decrease the amount of resistance. You put it in your mouth like this. Now, in order to breathe out like that, I am using every shred of muscle. Like, you want to have like the ripped ribs showing here? This is used to teach professional speakers. By the way, am I a decent professional speaker? I like to think I am. As well as singers and professional athletes and pro fighters and people like that. They use this because you can change your VO2 max, which is your ability to basically breathe and your ability to take up oxygen. So this is a relatively inexpensive, I think they're around $60, don't quote me on that, a relatively inexpensive device that really, really makes a difference. So if you want to know what a biohacker looks like, when you're bored at home late at night, I might look something like this, where I'm vibrating, and normally I'd have a kettlebell in each hand, and I'd be going, and it'll take me all of about 1 minute before I feel like I'm going to die. And by the way, this normally doesn't make that sound. It's because the floor is a little bit uneven and we haven't put a pad underneath it, so it's much quieter than the rattling that you were just hearing then. So this is a pretty neat way. If you're into training or you have breathing capacity problems, the lungs are just like your bicep. You can have a muscle here by doing curls, or you can have muscles here. And honestly, if these are working well, you're going to speak better, you'll be able to sing better, and you may even sleep better because you've increased your tissue oxygenation, just because you can bring more oxygen in. The reason I do this and this together is that, number one, I might as well get the benefit. If I'm going to take 2 minutes of this, I might as well get my body stimulated and get circulation happening. But as I'm bringing more oxygen in, I also want to make sure that I get the microvascular circulation that happens as the whole body's moved like that. So it's a neat way of sort of stacking technologies together. This is called the Power Lung. It's on upgradedself.com. We talked about TENS. TENS is the oldest form of electrical stimulation. A while ago, maybe in the 80s, you could buy the ab belt, which would have, little bits of stimulation here. And this device, I bought it in Beijing when I was there a couple weeks ago, and it was, I forget the exact exchange rate, somewhere between $4 and $6. And you know what? It's a perfectly functional computer-controlled TENS unit, better than the one that I've had at home that took like 6D batteries that was this big. Now, this is a way that you can relax muscles at home and even increase a little bit of oxygenation. It does nothing like the sort of technology that Dr. Justin was just using in order to tell your nervous system where it's turned off. But if you have aches and pains, you could pop a Tylenol or something and decrease the amount of glutathione in your liver and your ability to detoxify other things. Or maybe you might want to have one of these little guys at home, and you can do a search on Amazon for TENS, electrical stimulation, and you can put the electrodes on wherever it hurts. In fact, why don't we have a demo? Someone have any sort of sore muscles? Come on up, and we'll look at the difference between how the other one worked and how this works. Anywhere we should do it?
Back here.
All right, so we'll stick an electrode here. And any other spots? We'll just do it on the other side.
Neck.
Okay. There is a little bit of precision. You can put these on specific sites where muscles insert and whatnot, but most people put it where it hurts. Notice, with Dr. Justin, we looked at where's the source of the problem versus the source of the pain. So this is more treating a symptom kind of thing, but it's a very inexpensive device. So just push the plus button until, you see the jerk there? Push it a little bit. It still hurts a little bit. So turn a little bit sideways so the camera can see the muscle tension right here. It should be pulsing in and out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what's going on there is we're firing the muscles but not making changes to the nervous system like the other device did. But still, this kind of technology is a useful thing, and sometimes when you go to the chiropractor, they'll put a pulsing current just like this on a sore muscle to massage the muscle. So this is a form called electrical massage. The fact that it's gone in the last 10 years from a big box full of batteries to a vanishingly small device, smaller than an iPhone, that you can buy on the street for $6 in China is pretty profound. The speed of change there is almost as fast as the speed of change of things like computer processors, Moore's law. So we're going to be seeing the ability to use electricity on your nervous system more and more and more frequently. You can sit down and use it if you want, or just if it's hurting a lot, stop.
All right. So one question came in from EM1L. Would this be beneficial for people who have become numb or are unable to control their muscles correctly, like with spasms?
I don't think a normal TENS unit is something that I would use there. I would want to talk to a doctor or someone like Dr. Justin, who is using electricity in more of a therapeutic, like changing the nervous system function way.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions from our audience, and then we'll wrap for this session.
So I know in China they use electroacupuncture. I'm just wondering if there's any relationship between TENS and that.
Electroacupuncture is the idea of going to an acupuncture point on the body and then using an electrical probe there instead of a needle. It's kind of amazing, but we have spots on our body that are mapped out by different traditions on different cultures that generally line up, and you can stimulate them in several different ways. Number one, you can push on a site like that. Number two, you can hit it with a laser. You can use the laser that you saw before on one of those points. You can stick a needle in it. You can stick a needle in it and turn a magnet on the top of the needle to generate a small electrical current, which was the original electroacupuncture. Or you can put an electrical probe on it, or even one of these pads, and then do that. So this kind of a $6 unit in China comes with a map of acupuncture points on the body, so you can stimulate them, but you don't have to do it. You can use it on muscles or acupuncture points.
I know, I'm sure you're probably familiar with Dr. Terry Walls and her halting her MS symptoms with a diet similar to yours and electrical stimulation. And I'm going to use my sister who has MS as kind of a guinea pig, and I'm wondering if you've had any people use the vibration platform for MS, increased mobility.
It's a non-medical device, so I'm not at liberty to discuss that without crossing some legal boundaries that I'm careful not to cross. However, why don't we ask Terry Walls, who will be a speaker later today.
Oh, wow.
She was a TED speaker with 1.5 million views. I spent this last weekend hanging out with her and a few other people. Very, very fascinating woman. So we invited her to come in over Skype in order to talk specifically about these things, because things like MS, things like chronic fatigue syndrome, things like even lupus, where the immune system or some part of the body goes off track, those are ways of illuminating, for those of us who don't have those conditions, for illuminating ways that we can increase our performance. Because you take someone who's injured or unwell and you figure out the path to wellness, well, what we think is wellness is actually table stakes. The biohacking idea is we're going to start from wellness and we're going to go beyond wellness. We want to be at a level of performance that wasn't normal. And what Terry has taught us from her own path really ties in nicely with going beyond normal performance if you take those techniques and apply them to a healthy person.
I love that question came in, and the look on the studio audience face when we said that Terry was going to be on the show this afternoon. So once again, that is very, very exciting. Thank you for bringing her in advance as a guest.
Sure. I made a mistake earlier.
Okay.
The code for the Bulletproof Vibe is BP Vibe, not BP Live. I confused those two. My apologies. So if you wanted to get one of those, that's the right code.
Okay, great. And more information can also be found for some of the other things going on the Creative Vibe blog, too. But thank you. So we are going to take our 45-minute lunch break. Dave, what are we going to do when we come back?
We are going to have a pretty amazing segment where we start talking about hacking the mind. Because we've talked about what you can do with the body, with the electricity, with whole body vibration.